In 1982, the movie Creepshow was released. This was written by horror writer extraordinaire Stephen King, and it was directed by George A. Romero, the godfather of the zombie movie. And it was done as an homage to classic EC comics. It was done in an anthology style. There's 5 different stories in the movie. Now, that's already got some horror comics titans working on that project. But when they were going to adapt the movie into comic book form in a graphic novel, they had Jack Kamen do the cover for it and Bernie Wrightson doing the interior artwork. Stephen King, George A. Romero, Jack Kamen, Bernie Wrightson, EC Comics. This is just chock full of titans of the horror genre. I'm going to put this under the microscope today. Stay tuned and watch this video until the end. And we're back. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics. Thank you for joining me. I am on the path of doing 31 days of horror comics. So subscribe if you haven't already. You don't want to miss out on those. And I do have a handy-dandy playlist set up called Halloween Horrors 2025 if you want to catch up on any of the videos you've missed out on. This is Stephen King's Creepshow, a George A. Romero film, art by Bernie Wrightson, cover art by Jack Kamen. This was originally released as a graphic novel in like bookstores and things that Stephen King's name held a lot of weight. So this wasn't released in like comic shops too frequently unless they made it a point to go pick them up. Here's the back cover. Stephen King there. Here's the 5 stories included. You have Father's Day, Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, The Crate, Something to Tide You Over, and The Creeping Up on You. Exact same stories in the movie, the first Creepshow movie. And it's based on the 1982 horror anthology and cult classic film directed by George A. Romero and featuring stunning illustrations by the legendary Bernie Wrightson and cover design by EC Comics' Jack Kamen. And you can see it's a harrowing and darkly humorous tribute to the controversial and influential horror comics of the 1950s. So yeah, the whole idea of Creepshow came about with Stephen King and George A. Romero being fans of the classic EC Comics. And they wanted to do a movie version of that. Well, then it's interesting that the movie was influenced by the comics. And now we're getting an adaptation of the movie with Bernie Wrightson and Jack. It's just like this circular kind of influence thing. With Bernie Wrightson, who was influenced by EC Comics and Graham Ingalls. Jack Kamen comes back to do the EC Comics cover. And I love the movie cover too. We have The Shining, Dawn of the Dead, Carrie. And this kid's reading a Creepshow comic. Just amazing stuff. So now we open it up. And this is all just like no frills, no anything. It's just the straight comics. There's no back matter or anything. This is reprinted by G13, Gallery 13. And here's the opening cover. And now we're meeting Creep, the horror host, if you will. EC Comics had their horror hosts of, like the Old Witch and the Vault Keeper and the Crypt Keeper. And the first story is Father's Day, so it goes right into the story. If you've not watched the Creepshow movie, I definitely recommend it. It's a lot of fun. I love the anthology style of it. I think that kind of movie is really interesting, the anthology movie, because you get like 5 stories told over 2 hours. I think they should do that more often. I know that the old Twilight Zone movie had 3 different stories in it. But you can see like Bernie Wrightson's like artwork in here is so reminiscent of the Graham Ingalls. Like Graham Ingalls was definitely an influence on Bernie Wrightson's artwork. I just did my where's my cake, Bedelia? Because it's Father's Day. I just did my top 10 favorite horror artists video. If you haven't checked it out, please do. And Bernie Wrightson was my number 1. He's my all-time favorite horror comics artist. It's Father's Day, and I got my own cake. Happy Father's Day to me! You can see the twist ending there, just like classic EC Comics. The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. Now, these were all written by Stephen King. The stories were for the movie. I think 3 of them, I can't remember, 2 or 3 of them are based off of previously written Stephen King short stories being adapted to film. And then 2 or 3 of them, whichever, the number is, I forget, are originally written for the movie by Stephen King. And you have this mucky swamp monster. Bernie Wrightson is one of the co-creators of the Swamp Thing with Lynn Wein, so it's cool to see him kind of go back to drawing a swampy muck monster like this. But yeah, they're all told in the exact same tradition of EC Comics where they have a twist ending to them. A little bit different in the fact that it's not a just desserts situation where in EC Comics there's always the bad person, the villain of the story would be getting their desserts, their justice. At the end, with the twist ending, it would be like them meeting their peril or their tragedy or their death. And here it's not exactly like that. It's a little bit maybe more gruesome, or maybe it's even going to have a twist ending over the fact that you don't know who's going to meet their end. And it does have the creep hosting each of the stories, which is always fun. It's, again, classic horror anthology. This was Ted Danson, the actor that played this character, Ted Danson of like Cheers fame. So it's fun to reminisce about this and see who the actor was that Bernie Wrightson was drawing from. And I am always curious about that too, like, because I know there's likeness issues, and was Bernie Wrightson allowed to draw it exactly like Ted Danson, or did he have to draw it like somebody else? But it's just hilarious imagining Ted Danson like that. And there's just, anytime that Bernie Wrightson's drawing like zombies or muck monsters or things, like, he just has such an attention to detail and lighting that really like sets him off and sets him apart from other horror artists. They're just like so dirty and grimy, and you can almost like smell the atmosphere that he's drawing. Here's the creeping up on you with this creep is wearing an exterminator outfit that says bug off on it. And this guy is deathly afraid of bugs. And that's his whole story. He's kind of a neat freak, a little OCD, and he hates bugs more than anything. I love this motif too, where Bernie Wrightson's drawing like the peephole, and he's showing the rounded face of someone through the peephole. Bernie Wrightson, his attention to lighting is something that deserves to be studied too from any sort of artist. He would also model things a lot of times, where he would want to get that lighting just right, so he'd model things certain ways. His Frankenstein artwork, if you haven't seen it, just Google Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein, and you'll see some of the greatest artwork you've ever seen in your life. Was all about modeling and properly lighting and just this incredible detail. And then this guy, who's afraid of bugs, gets the ultimate horror of having all these bugs pouring out of his mouth. But yeah, this is Creepshow, and Image Comics has brought this back as an anthology through Skybound. So we do have Creepshow coming back as a horror anthology with a lot of great cartoonists working on that. I'm going to do a video on those anthologies. I have one right here, actually. I can show off. Here's the first volume of that. So I'm going to do a video on this too this month to show you off what a modern version of Creepshow looks like. There's also 2 sequel movies, Creepshow 2 and 3. I think 3 might have been direct-to-video. And I don't think Stephen King or George A. Romero had anything to do with this, either sequel, or maybe they're producers of it, I can't remember. And then there's been through Shudder, the horror streaming app, they've brought back Creepshow for kind of a TV show horror anthology, which is really cool. But yeah, they brought back the comic books with just a little preview here before I do the video. Chris Burnham, Paul Dini, John McCrae, Steve Fox, David Lapham, Francisco Francavilla, Kyle Starks, Steve Orlando, like just some really massive names in this project, and you see the creep is still in there. So I'll have a video on this. Volume 1 and 2 will be the video because I have both of them, and I'll be showing you what the modern version of Creepshow looks like. So the horror anthology is something that I feel like should always be an ongoing thing in comics. I feel like there should always be some version of that for up-and-coming cartoonists, or even ways for you to get like stalwart titan of the industry type cartoonists to do a 6 to 8 page story in a different type of setting than they usually work in. But I digress. That's it. Thank you for joining me. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics. Like the video, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. You don't want to miss out 31 Days of Horror, and keep talking comics.